This is an interview with Mike Herrera, son of John J. Herrera, who is national president of the LULAC organization. Mike, what do you remember about Gus Garcia? Or what can you tell us about him?
I was a teenager when Gus Garcia from San Antonio, the lawyer, came on the scene, and well, I should say, became aware of him through Dad. And he was a young man who had gone to University of Texas Law School. University of Texas Law School, graduated from law school when he was 19 years old. And in order to practice law, had to have his disabilities removed. Now, he had a photographic memory that, he could recall everything he had ever seen before in his life. And he was very smart, and he took up the cause of LULAC and helping rid of discrimination, things that were going on. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I've long thought about Gus, and Gus has been dead for many years. Unfortunately, he served at the end there. He suffered in the 50s. It appears that it was mental illness with alcoholism, and anyway, he died in the gutter, poor guy. But I don't want him forgotten as to what he did for the people. And I hope something is done for him. I know that there have been some groups that have contacted me that have wanted to do either a play about him or even a movie, but nothing has happened yet. These things take time. But I hope that Gus Garcia is not forgotten. Is not forgotten as to his contributions that he made to the cause. He was part of the lawyers that went to Jackson County to try, the Peter Hernandez case, and who had been charged with murder. And the ulterior motive there, though, on this part was that we wanted to establish the fact that no juror with a Spanish surname had ever been called for jury service in that county in memory's time. And it was hard to bring up and all, and I won't go all through it. But needless to say, in the end, we prevailed. And this discrimination against Latinos or Mexicanos serving on grand juries would have ended right there, and in any other county where it happened. Now, while I'm thinking about it, there was a symposium held some 20 some odd years ago at the University of Houston with Arte Publico Press and Judge Lucas Salinas, who's a professor of law at Texas Southern University. And this symposium was put on in honor of the Peter Hernandez case and its results and what happened. What was surprising to me is so many people showed up from all over the country. And this wasn't just about Latin Americans not being called to serve on juries. This was about other people also that had been denied that service or that calling. And Gus Garcia had so much to do with it. And I just hope that he's not forgotten.
Didn't your father play a role in that case that went to the Supreme Court?
Yes, they tried the original case there in Jackson County, and then when they decided to do the appeal, well, Dad stepped aside because Judge Carlos Cadena was a constitutional lawyer there at St. Mary's University. He stepped in, and I mean, the guy's a heavyweight, but Dad was part of the team that went to Washington to try that case. They tried that case the same week that Brown versus the Board of Education was tried. So the same week, back-to-back cases. And so, in fact, if you look at the decisions, there's a book about the decisions. There, you open up the book, and on one sheet, there's, Peter Hernandez's case. On the other sheet, there's Brown versus the Board of Education.
Wow.
It's something,
And what do you remember about Ernest Deguia?
Well, I met Ernest Deguia when I was a junior LULAC, or a youth junior. Well, back then we called it junior LULAC. And I was 14 years old. And he had just been asked to be the mentor, the supervisor of the youth group. And he took over, and I remember Mr. Deguia being stern, very, kind of, and strict. He kept us in line. We were just a bunch of young kids, and we wanted to get a little crazy sometimes. Not real crazy, but he kind of kept us in line, kept us going, kept us guiding us, and all of the years that I knew Mr. Deguia, he's always Mr. Deguia to me. I watched him serve there at LULAC Council 60 in various capacities, various duties, assignments that he was given, and every one of them he served, he did it right, served it right, and when all was finished, books were closed, well done. And a man of just honesty, very honest. Well, to me, he was Mr. Integrity. And I've always thought just the very, very highest of him. We talk about LULAC and service and all. I think about him. I don't think so much about Dad, but I think about him and a few others. I'm reluctant to start naming people because I know I'll leave somebody out. But he's one of the ones that was right up there.
Can you tell us about the Friday afternoon lunches?
Oh, okay. Well, Friday afternoons at the law offices of John J. Herrera were kind of slow. And it got to be kind of a thing about, well, let's drop on by and let's go to lunch. And we went to some nice places. We just provided good dining. We'd go to Guido's and good spread of seafood, Bear's, on McGowan Street, which is good steak, terrific steaks, some seafood also. And what was the name of that place? Trader Vic's. I think it was. Pan-Asian food with real good drinks. See, drinks were part of this. At any rate, it was the group that would get together and we would go there to enjoy good eating and good conversation with good friends. And it was that conversation and good friends that were, a lot of things were discussed, many things were discussed that later would go on, through the council, that things that would get done. People would come in from out of town for these just impromptu luncheons. And we'd spend, 3-4 hours eating. And here I'm a young guy and a young man, watching all these people there and listening to them and things that they have to say, and these were important people. You know.
Who were some of the people?
Huh?
Who were some of the people that attended?
Well, just, right off, you got me right off the line, right off the bat. Well, I'll tell you, it was one of these meetings, one of these luncheons where Sed was born. What's his name? Who's the national president that was with compliance? And he was the national president. Anyway, I forget his name. He and a fellow named George worked for the federal government, and they made sure that there was contract compliance with whoever had these things going. Anyway, they brought this idea to the luncheon. And, hey, what do you think about this? And discussed it. And said, LULAC would actually be handling it, but they would kind of be endorsing it. And I thought about it, and because now that, I had been active with the anti-poverty program. I've been very active, and I saw the connection, real quick of how this could help LULAC. And Dad looked at me and said, "What do you think, Mike?" And Dad, it's a terrific thing. LULAC could, it would be a good program, but you got to take it before the council. So. Took it before the council, and there were some naysayers there but it went on, and it became a very successful program, and one of the most successful things that I think that LULAC has been associated with. I never was a part of the organization. I never worked with it. Ironically, my sister Joyce lived in Liberty, Texas at that time, and somehow or another she joined up with it, and she did a lot of good working for that program out there in the rural areas of Harris County into Liberty County.
Mm-hmm. In 1963, you were heavily involved and played a prominent role in bringing John Kennedy to a LULAC event. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, as I look back on it now more and more, it was just a wonderful thing that happened. When I'd worked in Washington D.C. and I worked under Vice President Lyndon Johnson when he was there, and I was a United States Capitol policeman. And I'm going to tell a little story. I haven't told many people, but half of Massachusetts, when John Kennedy was elected, half of Massachusetts migrated down to Washington, D.C. So he had all these Irish people. And so I'm standing there the first time standing row, and now this is 60 years ago, when a lot of ethnicities weren't spread out the way they are today. So they're calling roll and all, and it was old. Lieutenant Disney was his name, old crusty Irishman. He came to my name and he said, "Hero, hey Herrera," something, and I couldn't really say anything. The guy that was next to him, his assistant, said, "Welcome, Herrera." And he said it loud enough for everybody to hear. And I said, "Here, sir." Everybody turned around to look at me. I said, "The name is pronounced Herrera, but I'll answer to O'Hara." And the Irish guy, everybody cracked up, and I became part of the group, you see. And those were my friends up there. The guys from Massachusetts and the guys from New Mexico. They were all working down there, going to school under Senator Dennis Chavez. And just good, smart people, smart people that that knew, what they liked and funny, and we had a lot of fun. But I was fortunate enough to make some good friends with some people there that some of them worked in low-level positions there at the White House, and we stayed in touch. We'd run into each other at parties, et cetera. And when this opportunity came up of the president coming to Houston, and David Adame, reading it there, well, he was going to go to the Albert Thomas Center. Well, we knew good and well where he was going to stay. He was going to stay at the Rice Hotel. He couldn't stay at the Shamrock Hotel. So he was going to stay at the Rice. And they figured it out quick. They typed out that letter inviting him. That was Dad's name. John J. Herrera. They knew him. Mike Herrera, they didn't know him. But he invited them, and there was a positive response. I made some background phone calls. I said, hey, looks like something's going to happen here, and I sure would appreciate any help you guys could give. And, well, apparently they did. Nothing was ever communicated to me. And after we got that positive response, then Dad rented the ballroom and, made up a LULAC event, and we started calling everybody in the state. The president, we can't guarantee he's going to be here, but recommended that you don't overlook this, and that's the way it went for some 3 or 4 weeks. And they called it off, and then we'd get it called back on. I'd make some phone calls. Dad would call Ken O'Donnell, the chief of staff of John Kennedy, and we'd get it called back on, and we complied with every request that they made. And anyways, the day came, the night came that we were going to do this, and I was there by the back door with Mr. Aguirre. Mr. Aguirre was there, and just waiting, and the door opened a little bit. The advance man for Jack Kennedy was there, and he told me, he said, well, they'll be down in a few minutes, so get everybody ready. So I went up to the front there, and I told Dad, I said, they'll be down in a few minutes, Dad, so get, have everything together. So, and I went back there by Mr. Aguirre and just waited and just saw him come in and saw the people erupt. I used to see them, a bunch. So it wasn't that it was always exciting, the president, the vice president, but not everybody gets to see this. And they got a chance to see it. So
50 years later, you spoke at an event alongside of John Quinones. What were your feelings?
I couldn't believe it at first. When they asked me to go, I naturally said yes because I'd been part of it, but when they asked me to say a few words, I kind of drew back. I hadn't spoken in public in years, but I said sure I will. I wasn't going to put a damper on anything, and I was proud. I was proud to say that I was a part of it, and that many of the people that were there that evening, we were kids together. We went to high school together and all, and we were 50 years later, and we were talking about this. And this was a highlight, well, not only of my life, but of their lives, because they had been with the President of the United States. And that's a big deal. Hasn't happened since. And I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but I mean, we were recognized. I think hey, we are Americans. We're not some subgroup, second class city. We are Americans. And if they look at our record, anybody looks at the records of Latino people in this country and see our record of service in wartime, under any circumstances, they will see nothing but patriotism and service. And that's what that's what I was happy about. Mm-hmm. That it was there, and I just put it out there for people to say, for people to understand and see. Sometimes we pay attention to these loud mouths that go around barking very loudly and say some bad things, and we seem to think that a lot of people think that way. No, they're just lonely jerks that go around saying these things, and most people don't think that way. And that's what I've taught my kids. How to behave and how to be and how to think. But at the same time, how to protect themselves. Don't let anybody run over you because of your heritage.
Mm-hmm. Michael, I have one final question.
Beg your pardon?
I have one final question.
Sure.
And what would you say to LULAC members today? What message would you want to pass on to them? Having been involved in LULAC for 60 years and...
Well, LULAC does not understand the importance of their existence. I'm talking on a national level. And they have a doggone good reputation, but they don't say anything much about themselves. Now, I won't get into why or anything like that, but we have a good record of service to the community, especially certain councils in LULAC, because not all councils have been able to last, as long, since the 30s, like LULAC Council 60 has. And LULAC Council 60, it's got a remarkable service background of what they've done for the community and all. And we've had some very good people come through there to be members. But at the same time, there have been other councils through the years, off and on, that I recall that were also very, very good LULAC councils. Paredo, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, and some others that, I forget. Now, we were primarily a Texas organization, although have expanded somewhat. I would just what I would urge LULAC to do today is to modernize and to come into the 21st century and to become more to give more accounting of what they do, and maybe we do this. Maybe LULAC does this as a sense of we don't like to brag on ourselves. Maybe that's something we do. Maybe I don't know, but I would like to see us more as a national, well, not more as a national organization, but as a national organization that has more to say. Now that would involve, of course, having people at the head that know what they're saying. It's easy to be a bubblehead and have people up there that just go ahead and say things just to say things and they're going to amount to anything, but to say and do things that mean something. The backbone, though, of LULAC is its councils, and I've always felt that. And each council has their own particular agenda, their own particular problems. It just depends where they come from. I would like to see a stronger national presence. And I'll leave it at that and just let somebody else interpret what I mean, and perhaps do something there. But as far as LULAC itself and what they're doing, locally, I'm happy. I'm very happy with it. For them to have lasted this long doing these things, it's great. It's really, really great.
Okay. Mr. John Michael Herrera, thank you very much.